Come on. Really? Was you expecting anything other than that result? Let's be honest. 30 years odd with just one win there. Just says it all, really. And we get our hopes up all the time, and only for it to be crashing down around our ears. To be fair, I don't think you can complain too much about the players that were on the pitch. I don't think any player had a stinker. I think it was one of them games that just wasn't going to happen, and we just wasn't good enough. We don't have the players to compete with teams like Chelsea. And I know, and I've seen a lot of people talking about how Brighton held them and this, that and the other, but different teams, different days, different tactics, whatever. I do feel for Conte. I look at the players that he's putting out and the formations he's trying. I mean, we looked at the formation and it looked like a 6-2-2, to be fair, right? But let's be absolutely clear. We have already played them 3 times and lost to them every time without scoring a goal. So you can be, Conte can be forgiven for trying something slightly different to see whether he can get something better, because essentially he's still got the same players. These are the same players that a few months ago just weren't even trying, or didn't even feel like they were trying, right? So you're kind of looking at it and you're thinking, he's got to do something. He's got to do something different. He's got to play with the players that he's got. He's got to, utilise the formation that works with the players that he has available. No creativity in there. We know that. Lo Celso and Ndombele and Dele all seem to be on their way out at some point, if we can find someone who is willing to take them, which seems to be the difficult bit, to be honest with you. And why would anyone want them? Why would anyone want a player that is just, I'm talking about Ndombele, who appears to be sulking and literally not putting any effort in and hasn't been able to play a full match for, 3 years or whatever it is. So why would you want to pay top dollar for that guy like we did? He was the big talent that was out there when we bought him. Everyone was screaming that, we should go get this guy. And we got him, and what's happened? He's been really, really poor. It ain't like some of the other players that we've picked up where we go, oh, they're one for the future and this, that and the other, potential. This guy was supposed to be the next big thing. And clearly he's not. Not for us anyway. So, that's that, you've got that lack of creativity in there. So everything's got to come down the sides. Doherty had a good, 45 against Leicester. Clearly that's out the window because he didn't do particularly well against Chelsea, and I wasn't really expecting him to, because the Chelsea players are better than him, to be fair. Sessegnon's just coming back from injury, so, I was hoping for something better from him yesterday, but clearly it wasn't to be. And that's it, apart from that, you've got nothing, you've got Winks and Højbjerg in the middle there, who neither of them are attacking players at all, and they're just push back and push back and push back because Chelsea moved the ball quickly and they close it down and they chase you down and all the rest of it. And we get nowhere in it. Now, I don't think you can talk about the game without talking about the Kane goal. For me, ludicrous. If you do that anywhere else on the pitch, I mean, we actually saw Mason Mount, literally push Tanganga into the hoarding, smash his head on it, and it wasn't even looked at, and yet, Silva gets, feels someone breathing on the back of his neck, and he's down like Bambi on ice. And, I mean, he literally skidded across across the thing from just being touched. It's laughable, absolutely laughable. But that's football these days, and it's not the football that we want as fans, for sure, but it's the football that we've got. It's what referees will pander to. Great goal. And had that counted, would it have been different? Don't know. Maybe we could have built from that. Maybe, that would have been a catalyst for us to go on. It's just so disappointing when those kind of decisions go against you, especially when you see it going on, and it's the inconsistency. I mean, VAR itself, and I think we've talked about this a lot. VAR itself is not the problem. The idea of VAR is there to stop inconsistencies and to help to overall, when there is an error. But you are still stuck with a person making a decision and interpreting things their way. So for me, I just think, you may as well take it out and only have it for specific things, because we're all calling out, that's a clear and obvious, error. But is it? That's not really what VAR was for. It's to make sure the wrong player doesn't get sent off in a melee, or to make sure onside is onside, and and we've seen the nonsense with that, with Man United's player, I can't think of his name now, not being offside when Kane was offside for arguably being further forward. And it's the inconsistency that's the problem. And you're always going to have inconsistency with people, because people will see it a different way. So for me, I just think VAR is almost pointless to a certain extent, or it needs to be absolutely clear what they will and what they won't look at, to stop fans saying that should be looked at and that should be looked at, and increasing the scope of what VAR is about. Because I don't think it's for that purpose. But it wasn't to be, it wasn't to be, and then, Ziyech, he scores a goal straight after half term, brilliant goal, well taken. Hugo just kind of looked at it, and and you can't really, but I don't think even two keepers would have saved it, to be honest with you. It was a really well placed. My only issue with it is the defenders need to get out quicker. They need to get closer. If you're gonna, he is where he is, and you're thinking, well, there's limited danger, but with players of that sort of quality, they can pull that kind of stuff out of the bag, and there you are, you're 1-0 down, and all to play for. You got to push, and you got to push. The second one, it's even more gutting when you think, is that a foul, really? To get that free kick, it's just typical. It's just so typical, and it's frustrating as fans to get dicked over like that yet again. But it's a game, right? And it is what it is. We are where we are. We lose a game. It's the first one in 10 that Conte has lost in the league. So we have to dust ourselves down and go again, and all that malarkey. In terms of signings and stuff like that, it does make you wonder where things are. We are clearly crying out for something different. We're clearly crying out for some key places to be filled. But we're not the only team that's not bought anybody, right? It is dragging on for the whole thing, and this is all because of Sky and their deadline day, all the hype, and people sticking bananas in inflatable bananas in people's ears, and crowding around the training grounds and all the rest of it, because it adds to the hype of all of that. And as I've said many times, I'm not a fan of deadline day bullshit. It is what it is. It's the way it goes now. But for me, it's just rubbish, and it's just annoying. and I, it wouldn't surprise me if it wasn't all just jacked up just for that last day to push those viewings and push the bet in and all the rest of it. I'm just such a skeptic from that point of view. But as fans, all we've done over the last month is spend our time moaning about, we need this player, we need that player, and all the rest of it. I mean, we're all getting super hyped up about Adama Traore. Really, is that a level of our expectation? Is it, a right winger who they want to convert as a wing back? But if that's not his game, why are we buying him? Why are you aiming to buy a player to change their role? What's the point of that? For me, if you want a right wing back, you've got to go out and get the best right wing back that there is, if that's how you want to play. If you want a creative midfielder, you go out and you buy the best creative midfielder around. That's what you should be aiming to do, and that's what other teams do. Chelsea went out, spent 70-odd million on Kepa because they wanted a goalkeeper, and he's one of the best ones around. So that's what they do. They go out and buy that player. They don't go and buy, a defensive midfielder and convert him into a keeper. That's it's not what they do. So for me, I just despair with it all. And the other thing that's really getting me down a little bit with the transfer stuff is all these people calling for every player that's ever played for us to come back, the Trippier, the Eriksen and all the rest of it. Listen, those guys went for a reason, right? Trippier had a good season before the World Cup. He came back, he was pants. He was pants. And I'm not saying that Emerson has been any better and Aurier's been any better and all the rest of it. Maybe they haven't. But, Trippier is not the answer. He's not the answer. And it's the same as Eriksen. Eriksen's season before he left, the guy wasn't interested. He wanted to move on. So what makes you think he really wants to come back to Tottenham? We have this obsession with ex-players, as if they are our saviours. And every player that's injured is going to come back and be the one that's going to turn it around, And I just don't feel it. I just don't feel it. Maybe it's just me, but it's just the way I feel. I don't know the answer. I don't know the players' names or that sort of thing. I'm not a scholar of world football. I don't watch every team that plays every game and all the rest of it. I watch Tottenham and I watch Tottenham play. I don't even take a lot of notice of the players and the opposition teams. That's not my thing. There are far better people out there that can talk all that sort of stuff through. So for me, all I'm saying is, scout for the best players, get the best players in the positions that you want them, and we go from there. Not every player is going to be a success. We call out all the players that have come to us that haven't been any good, but I mean, Man United have had some stinkers over the years. Man City have had some players stinkers over the years. Chelsea have had players that have been stinkers over the years. That's why they move them on. I mean, you think Chelsea had Salah and De Bruyne. They didn't fancy him, didn't work out for them. They've gone off to be great players. And I'm sure that'll be the same for some of these other guys, that will go off and, do something magical or special or whatever. Sometimes it just doesn't work. I just want us to show some intent and idea that we are trying to match some of these big boys with some of these signings, and we've spent some money. But we've spent money on players that just haven't worked out. So either the scouting's wrong, the players are overpriced, or there is something fundamentally wrong with this club that we can't get the best out of some of these players. I don't know. It's a really difficult one. So as you can tell, I'm a bit down today. Chelsea beating us yet again. 4 games, 4 losses. Don't think we've even scored a goal against them, and that's disappointing. But listen, we're still in a decent position. We're not out of the top 4 yet. Although for me, I still think it's a bit of a stretch. We said it was going to be a stretch at the beginning of the season, and the only thing that's keeping us in it is the poor performance from some of the other clubs around us. I mean, everyone's kind of giving it away, aren't they? West Ham ain't as consistent as they want to be. Scum ain't as consistent as they want to be. There's opportunities there. I get it. But it's because all the teams are doing the same thing and struggling in the same way. But we're still there. You know, we've got the FA Cup coming up at the weekend, so let's see if we can put in a decent performance against Brighton, who, you know, to be fair, look a decent side and play 'em, you know, fairly well. So, you know, just have to keep the faith and keep moving on, keep watching and keep hoping and live for a better day, because that's what we do, right? We're fans of our football club, and so no matter what happens, we're still going to come back for more because that's what we do. But it's the hope that kills you. Never mind. Up the Spurs.